Welcome to Your Story Doesn't End Here, the mental health podcast for military and veterans. I'm your host, Rachel, and my mission with this podcast is to be a voice for those who don't have a voice, bring awareness to mental health issues, and provide value and solutions to help make life more abundant. Hey everyone, thank you so much for coming back for part 2 of this 5-part series. If you didn't catch last week's episode, that is part 1. You'll want to make sure you listen to that before you listen to today's episode. This is one long story. It is 5 parts, goes in order. So if you miss one episode, you'll be completely lost. Go back, listen to part 1. If you did catch last week's episode, enjoy part 2 today.
And honestly, I'm so thankful I went to rehab. It helped me a lot, not only with me, but my mom, she was a druggie, and it really helped me understand her because she got us taken away when we were kids, and I could never understand why she would do that and why she is the way she was, because she was just still like childish and the way she talked and stuff. And it also helped my dad, because me and my dad, it really helped build our relationship. I'm pretty sure, like, by now, I'm very close to my dad, and that he was the only person. He was the only person that knew I was in rehab, and we talked almost every single day. And I feel like too, it helped my dad learn how to talk about our feelings, and just a lot of, like, I feel like all my therapy, I take it and I apply it to my life, which ends up applying to everybody else who's in my life. And so I go to rehab, and I leave, and I had like my whole year of aftercare, and they don't want you to drink or anything. And technically I still did, but so I after rehab, they told me to find something that made me feel good about myself, because I grew up in a very strict, very abusive, verbally, physically, mentally household. I was also sexually assaulted when I was 4 by my mom's boyfriend. And when I lived on the streets, I was gang raped. And I just had a very shitty childhood. And it was so shitty that when I initially screened for my rehab, they didn't know what to say to me. And when I got into rehab, I had a therapist, and he sent me to a psychologist, because he's like, there's no way you're normal. He's like, you have the history of a serial killer. He's like, you have a background of a serial killer. Like I had frontal lobe damage from my mom. She knocked my head into a bathtub when I was little. So I have a scar on my forehead. People used to make fun of me, call me Harry Potter when I was little. You can't really see it now, but it's there. But with the drug abuse, my mom was a whore, so I knew about sex by the age of 3. I was like, it's just a long history of fucked up shit, really fucked up shit. And I went to the psychologist, and he actually told me that he's like, I don't see anything wrong with you. He's like, I'm actually surprised at how normal you turned out. He's like, there's nothing wrong with you. He's like, and I told him what that guy said. And he's like, everybody chooses their own path. He's like, you can have a past of a serial killer, but it's what you choose to do that makes, like, what guides you. He's like, a lot of people end up making people sociopaths or psychopaths. A lot of it is just what they choose to do. How are you going to apply what's happened to you to your life? And I was, at the time, I was really big on proving everybody wrong. Like my mom, I never wanted to be like my mom. That was one thing I didn't want to be. Like my stepmom, she used to tell me that I was going to be a druggie, I was going to be a whore, that nobody would love me except for my body, which ended up making me really hate my body. And it was just, I had a full hatred for myself. And so when I went to rehab, I learned a lot about myself. And that's what got me really into the gym, because I already was a cardio bunny and stuff like that, but it got me to want to start lifting. And I started lifting. But the thing about that was people started leaving notes on my car. They would wait till I was leaving, and then they would follow me out to my car and try to talk to me. And so I switched multiple gyms. And one time I met this bouncer, and he was a huge fucking guy, huge guy. And then I found out he was an officer, and he kept asking me out. And I was like, no, like I was a third class. I was like, there's no way, no, I'm not going out with you. And one day I was working out, and because I had already switched gyms. This is a second gym that I was going to. It was a different base, like way out in Virginia Beach, because the one they were leaving notes on my car was on NOB. So I was going to the gym in Virginia Beach on one of the bases, and I was doing squats, and all of a sudden I saw this huge shadow, and there's like a light, like, okay, there's not a light, there's a mirror. And I was just like doing squats. And then all of a sudden I noticed who it is. It's that fucking officer. He found out what gym I went to and started like stalking me. And I've never seen a guy so fucking thirsty. Like when I say thirsty, like he went and drank water like every fucking 5 minutes. Like it was creepy. And then he like comes back, and he's like, oh, hey, Sandy, I didn't know you go to the gym here. What a coincidence. And it was just fucking creepy as fuck. And so that like was like the beginning of my paranoia, to where I ended up paying for a gym. I stopped going to Navy gyms after that. It was just I didn't know what to do. Like, people were leaving notes on my car. I would so I would switch gym hours. And it's like, so then I started going to the gym really late, and then people would wait, and they would go out to the car. Like they would sit there and wait for me to go leave. And then they would follow me out to try to talk to me. And it was fucking creepy.
What kind of notes were people leaving? Like,
oh, you're cute, and call me, like their number. I don't even know who these people are. And obviously, in order to know what car I have, you've been watching me. You've been watching me. And so I would go to the gym. I would sit in my car for a little bit. People would go by and stuff. And then when I left, I would sit in my car for a little bit, like put my seat all the way back. And like, it was just a habit. And then when I got to my home, I would sit in my car for a little bit. Like I was just really starting to get super paranoid. Because even when I started paying for a gym, like even people staring at me, I didn't like it. I didn't like it. And so, so that was my experience with the gyms, which really like bothered me, because, I was there because it was something that made me feel good. And also like, it was like, I saw another girl, and, I used to follow her on her Instagram, and I always thought she was pretty. I thought this girl was so pretty. And I follow her on Instagram now, and her name is Heather. So I'm just gonna say Heather because and she was like a little emo girl, and like a scene girl, and I just really thought she was always pretty. And I was like ugly fucking duckling. I was like a wallflower growing up. Like no guy looked at me. No guy asked me to dances. No guy asked me to anything. Like nobody liked me. I got bullied really, really bad. And I saw her, and she was so confident in herself and all this other stuff. And then when she started lifting, and I really was inspired by that. And so I started lifting. And so it was just a really big, huge damper when people started doing this stuff to me. And so, yeah, but then I ended up going on my second deployment with the ship. Another with Mutu again. Back, we were only there on deployment for a little bit, and then so first off, I was a fucking wreck, dude. On deployment, I started drinking again, and because I was done with my aftercare, and it was just, I don't know. I just don't want to remember anything. I didn't want to remember anything that happened because I felt like every time I drank, something would trigger. And this is before I knew about flashbacks or I knew about triggers or anything. I didn't know what was happening to me because I would go back. It was like I would see something and it would remind me of something that's happened. And then I was just there again. And I didn't want to remember any of that stuff ever, like any of that stuff. I just wanted to forget everything. And so I started drinking again. And once again, nobody said anything. Nobody said anything. I got fucked up. Like I went to get my wisdom tooth taken out in Spain, and I went there really fucking trash still. And they're like, well, we're going to let you sleep in the chair for a little while. And we're going to take some of it. And then like they waited for a few hours and then took my tooth out. And they knew I went there like trashed and they didn't do anything. They didn't say anything.
Crazy. And this is a medical, like a military medical.
Yes. So we were in the UAE and I was out and I went to that huge water park, the biggest water park, the biggest water with the biggest water slide. So I went to that water park and I, at the time I was talking to another Marine and he was a recon Marine. I met him cause I was on VBSS and they don't have females on their team. On the recon team, and I had all the same training, and I had the medical training as well. So they asked my CO if I could be a part of their team, and so I ended up starting training with them. And so we go to this water park, and we're about to leave, and all of a sudden I heard music, and it was like, I mean, obviously you've seen Jumanji, where like the little bongo start going.
Yeah, yeah.
It was like that. It was like that. And I'm like, where's that music coming from? Where's it coming from? And so we end up finding out that at the water park, there's a club on the top floor. And so we go there. And the one thing about that club is if you go in, you have to have the same amount of males to females, or you just have to have a group of girls. You cannot have a group of guys come to that club. It has to be like, it's weird. I've never been to a club like that. But they wouldn't let like a group of guys come in. They're like, no, it's equal female male ratio or all females. And so they were turning people away. And we get there and there's got a fucking like DJ and they're playing music and, everybody's going crazy. And they're finding out that it's fucking spring break over in Europe. So everybody's in the UAE. Yeah. I was just like, what? Like I'm mingling, I'm talking to everybody. My boyfriend at the time is buying me shots and like vodka and pineapples. Like, so curfew came up. And so we hurried up and got back on base. But in the sandbox, you can drink in the sandbox for a certain amount of time. And so I go and at the time I didn't know I didn't realize that it's the same thing. They were passing out saucies and like, like the beer with the liquor, like tap it off with the liquor.
So gross. So gross.
And I bought I bought like a 6-pack of Bud Light. Bud Light's my thing. And classic brought here, drink high-end beer. And everybody's mingling, everybody's talking. My chief's there. I see everybody. And I go back to go on the ship and I was in a dress at the time and I went down to berthing and what I was doing, it was about to change and I was changing and then I was going to go up to smoke deck and I go to put my pants on and because I was like a little tipsy, I fell over trying to put my pants on. And one of the girls is like still my really, really good friend. And I don't hold this against her at all because she was looking out for me. Same thing. I've looked out for her. Like I got her fucked up for her 21st birthday. And, but, like looking back, it was just it escalated too quickly and escalated for obvious reasons because, so he's like, you're drunk. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm fine. I was just putting my pants on. I lost my balance. I was like, I'm good. And this one, my LPO at the time, CTR one, I don't know her name. She was like, those girls that like slick their hair back. And she was a white girl that only dated black guys. And she used to tell me stories about how she was dating, she dated a football player or a basketball player, one of them, like an actual pro. And she purposely got pregnant with his kid. And she would tell me, or no, she got pregnant. So not the guy, not the baby daddy. Her baby daddy's brother was a pro ball player, but she purposely got pregnant with his kid, with this guy's kid. And she would tell me stories about how she would rape him and like force him to have sex with her. Yeah. And she was fucking crazy. She would tell me about how she was, so she got cross-rated. Like, again, this is the middle of cross-rating stuff. She got cross-rated from a paper pusher to a CTR. And she thought it was funny not to take her medicine because she was supposed to be taking medicine because she would lash out really easily. And she thought it was funny when she got mad and started yelling at everybody. She would just tell me all these stories all the time. And so she ends up calming down and she starts getting into it. And she tells Steve, to go to bed and that she'll handle it. And she comes to me and she's like, you need to go to bed. I was like, I'm fine. She's like, no, you need to go to fucking bed. I was like, I'm fine. I'm just changing. I'm going to go smoke. That's it. I'm going to smoke and then I'm going to come right back to bed. She's like, no, you need to go to bed, blah, 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 blah. And then I was like, I'm not going. And she's like, I'm going to go get Chief. And so she leaves and she comes back. And when she comes back, she's like, Chief's here to talk to you. So I go over to the stairwell to talk to Chief. And Chief's like, what's going on? And I'm like, I just wanted to go smoke. He's like, well, what's this? I hear about you hitting her. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, she said you slapped her. I was like, what are you? I don't even know what's going on. I was like, all I wanted to do was go smoke. That's it. I don't know what you're talking about. And Chief's like, well, she said that you hit her. And she said that her left side of her face was red and it was swollen and she was holding it. She said, you smacked her. I was like, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything to her. And he's like, just go to bed. He's like, so this is the Chief that I told you was at my training. So he was there for my first NJP and then he was there to pick me up from rehab after my second NJP. And so he tells me, he's like, just go to bed. He's like, we'll handle it tomorrow. So I was like, okay. So I wake up and then I go upstairs because we were supposed to have this meeting. And Chief asked me what happened and stuff like that. And then he like tells me that her left cheek was or her right cheek was no, her left cheek. Yeah, her left cheek was red. And I remember this because I told him, I was like, well, if I slapped her, why is her left cheek red when I'm right-handed? And I was like, and anyways, if I was going to do anything, I'm the oldest of 9 kids. I have 2 sisters that I'm really close with, and they can tell you that I've never smacked them. If I was going to do anything, I'm going to fucking punch the fuck out of you. And like, I was like, I don't know what she's talking about. And so he tells me to go on watch and that he's going to try to talk to her and see what's going on. So I go on watch. And at the time, I was standing on the quarterdeck as for the Liberty logs. And CMC pulls me to the side to talk to me. He's like, so what's this I hear about you hitting CTR1? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about because I didn't hit her. He's like, are you sure? I was like, yes, I did not hit her. And CMC is like, okay, we'll figure this out. So he's a CTR. And so I end up getting questioned by the MAs because what Chief didn't know was CTR1 that night went and woke up CMC and told CMC about this. Yes. And she took it right up, straight up. Went to CMC, then she went to the MAs to make sure that everything was going to actually go up. And if you go through, well, you can't go through them anymore, but if you would have went through all of the statements, every single person she talked to, she told a different story to about what side of her cheek was red. Every single person. And so once again, I go up to MAST, and I have my my DRB, and then I have my, so I looking and stuff, I like talking to other people, they've never heard of, you have to have a meeting with the CMC before the XOI.
I don't think I did. I also never had an XOI. I had like an OIC mask, so my shit was a little different anyway. But
yeah, well, anybody I've talked to, because I didn't have one my first one, and anybody I've talked to, there has never been a CMC mask. And even looking at regulation, there's not a CMC mask you have to do, but there was for me. And so when I went up for my CMC mask, so the one thing that really made me mad about my whole situation was their investigation lasted about 3 days. They didn't fully investigate everybody. The CMC was the one that pushed it to go up. And so I had this small mask with the CMC. And what made me mad about this situation was, so my mentor was there, FC1, he's still my mentor now. Actually, like, I'd still talk to him. He's about to come up here for a little while. Well, not up here. He's going to be in Seattle. And my senior chief, who I'm not really my senior chief. He was an ETCS, and but he was my mentor's mentor. And then my chief, and they were all in there to speak on my behalf. And so we're in there, and we still make a joke about this because FC1 goes and he's like talking to CMC, because CMC is like, well, I want to know why are you going to speak on her behalf? And he's like, so Sandy is a good sailor, blah, 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 blah. She recovered from her last NJP. I was the first and only female on the VBSS team. You know, I like did all, I always went above and beyond, because after my first NJP, what I was told was make the Navy need you, because the Navy can go on without you. If you're just going to settle, the Navy will go on without you. But if you make the Navy needs you and you make them put like all this money into you, they're going to keep you, you know? And so that's what I did. I like went to all these schools and I did all this stuff. And the one thing he said was, this was just a hiccup. And when he said that, CMC went off. He's like, a fucking hiccup, you know, started yelling and started ripping FC1's fucking ass, like ripping it, because FC1 was up for chief. He made board. And you would have thought that FC1 was at mast. From the way he demeaned him and put him down and just said slandered him. It's like, why the fuck would you stand up for somebody like this? You know, I thought you were going to be a chief. You know, being a chief, he's like, you're going to put on these anchors and this is the person you would lay down your anchors for. It's like, just ripped him another one. After that, nobody wanted to speak. No one wanted to speak. And so then it went up, and I had my XOI, because so the way my ship did it was you would have an XOI after DRB. You always went to see the XO, because then the XO determines on if he wants to pass it up to the CO or if he wants to handle it as his own situation. And so I haven't won with the XO, and he just asked basic stuff, and then he ends up having a meeting with me, and he's like, so I'm not going to say because it wasn't said. So he ends up like just like going on about stuff, and then I go up for my CO's mast. And when I got for my captain's mast, he didn't believe me. Why would he believe me? I just put on second class, wasn't getting paid for a second class. I had just made second class. I took the exam 5 times to make second class. And I wasn't getting paid for it. I had 2 prior NJPs, a CTR1. She had nothing. So who are they going to believe? They believed her. And the CMC himself was like, again, slandering me because he fucking hated me. And they said that they were going to count it as an ARI. That's what they decided. And that I was going to have 60 days restriction. With 60 days restriction, they can't give you anything else. And he gave me suspended bust. So he let me keep my rank, but he gave me 60 days restriction.
I don't know if this was like told to you at all when you ever went through your NJPs, but like I remember being in a training command and people telling me that if you requested court-martial, because you can always request court-martial, that it's like worse and you're just going to get kicked out of the Navy. But it's crazy because I know with court-martial, they have to bring evidence. And NJP, like there's really no, it's kind of like a he said, she said, I almost feel like a lot of the times.
It was definitely was, but that's why they believed her. And so I remember, so he didn't tell me they were counting it as an ARI yet. He just gave me 60 days restriction and suspended bust, which of course I cried, and I asked my chief if I could get, 7 days of bread and water. He's like, absolutely not. You're not going to do that. And
the drama.
Well, because if they give you 60 days restriction, technically on a ship, you can ask for 7 days bread and water instead.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And it's written into the staff, but my team, they were like, no, we're not going to let you do that. So I go down to the EW shop. And that's when I asked Chief, I was like, are they counting it as an ARI? And Chief tells me yes. And I remember right then and there having my first legitimate panic attack where I couldn't breathe. I couldn't breathe. And I was just like, and because that meant I was going to get kicked out. And so I tried to appeal my I tried to appeal my NJP. But the thing is, I didn't know. But I was on restriction for about 2 weeks. And then I found out that CMC was pushing for me to stay on restriction, but legally he was wrong. So if you put in an appeal, while your appeal is going up, they have to take you off of restriction. Yes, they have to take you off restriction. Because that means somebody else is choosing whether you're guilty or not. Yeah. So with that, you're innocent until proven guilty. And so I was supposed to be taken off restriction. And while I was taken off restriction, CMC made my life hell. He made sure I was on Charlie Liberty, which of course I was going to expect the first time. But so you were on Charlie Liberty, and then you're supposed to re-up and then go for a reevaluation. And then they decide to whether put you on Bravo or keep you on Charlie. Usually people are not kept on Charlie. Usually, after a month, they take you off. But
and Charlie Liberty is just
so Charlie Liberty is when you so you're not on restriction, but you can't leave the ship. So if they pull into port, you just can't leave the ship. That's the only thing. You can wear civilian attire, which is one thing that CMC or CTR1 tried to get me in trouble for because I was wearing civilian attire. But I pulled up the instruction. I learned a long time ago. Always have that, like, especially after being in trouble so many times, know the fucking instructions. And so I pulled up an instruction because they tried to get me in trouble. But it said I can wear civilian attire. And so that's the only thing. So all the Marines and all my friends would be like, Sandy, what do you want? I'm like, I just want chocolate and cigarettes. And so people would feed me chocolate and cigarettes. I would like go and watch, and I have like stacks of chocolate bars. And so so I go the first thing that happened, and this is so after my mast, I go to chow, and I'm in line for chow. I'm still in my dress uniform. And CTR1 comes and finds me, and she's like, hey, how are you doing? Are you okay? Like, if you need anybody, I'm here. And I was like, why are you talking to me? And she's like, what do you mean? I'm your LPO. And I was like, you just ruined my life. Why are you talking to me? Why? Please do not talk to me. And she's like, well, I'm your LPO, so I can talk to you. And I was just like, I don't want you talking to me. And I just ignored her. She sought me out in the chow line to ask me, after she just sent me up to fucking mass, if I was okay. And if I needed somebody to talk to, I could talk to her. So I, after that, went and talked to my chief, and I was like, I do not want her talking to me. And I told him what happened. And so he went to talk to her, and he told her that she was only supposed to talk to me if it was for work. She threw a fucking fit. She's like, I'm her fucking LPO. I should be able to talk to whoever I want, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, no, you will not speak to her unless it's something that needs to be done. That's the only time. So I learned quickly, because of the way she was, every interaction I had with her, I told Chief, hey, CT Rowan said hi to me. Everything. She looked my way. She breathed about anything and everything. I told Chief everything. So the XO actually came and talked to me after my mass, and he told me, he's like, we're going to let you have the decision. They're like, if you want to get off the ship to be processed out, we can have you off the ship in 2 to 4 days, and we can process you out. Or you can stay on the ship for the full deployment, and that way you can save money. I was like, I'll stay on the ship for the full deployment. Huge fucking mistake, but I decided to do that. And CTR1 was fucking livid. She was livid that they would even give me the option. And so right off the bat, everyone knew that there was going to be some hostility. And so I was in smoke pit one night, and one of my officers, I'm not going to say who, because if I said something, anybody who listens to this, they're going to know who. But one of my officers comes to me and like nonchalantly, like, standing next to me, he's like, so they're looking for a volunteer to go DCPO. He's like, I'm not telling you to go, but I think it would be best if you volunteered. He's like, just get away from everything for a while. And so the next day I volunteered to go to DCPO. And my chief was so mad. He was so mad, but not mad for like the wrong reasons. He was mad because he's like, I could protect you. He's like, is this why you're leaving our division? He's like, I can protect you. I can. He's like, you don't have to leave. And I was like, Chief, I was like, this is just, I just need to get out of the division. I need to get out of the division. Well, that was a fucking shit show. So I went DCPO, and from the start, everyone thought that the reason why I was still in was because I was pretty. And that's been the biggest thing. Everybody has thought that the reason why I have gotten what I've gotten in the Navy is because I'm pretty. And so when I went DCPO, they expected me to be a piece of shit. And I busted my ass. But every place I was, if I was in the berthing, CTR1 would call DCC. DCC was another Black man, and he was having an affair with CTR1. He was also having an affair with somebody else as well. And we know because somebody saw them coming out of a hotel. DCC had like these smallest fucking calves I've ever seen on somebody. And he's just a piece of shit. I like, if you cheat on your fucking wife, like you're a fucking lousy ass person. And but anywhere and everywhere she saw me, if she didn't think I was doing what I was supposed to, she would call DCC. And so one day I did birthing cleaners one week, because we had birthing cleaners. And birthing cleaners, you're supposed to take down their dirty laundry and go pick it up at the end of the day. Also make sure that the toilet paper is stocked, blah, 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 blah. But what usually happens, because we shared a birthing with engineering and deck, they're pieces of shit, and engineering doesn't do shit because they think that they're fucking hot shit because they're engineers. And so like one of them one time, who she used to also sleep with officers. That's how she got mapped. She didn't deserve it. Poor lamb chops deserved it. But one day I was sitting in the lounge and she comes up to me. She's like, hey, we're out of toilet paper. I was like, okay. She's like, we'll go get some. I was like, no. I was like, you know where fucking supply is? I was like, I have toilet paper in my fucking rack. I don't need that toilet paper. If you want toilet paper, you can go get toilet paper from yourself, because you still live in this fucking birthing too. No. And that's how they are. Like, it drove me nuts. But so one day we forgot to do something. I forgot what we forgot to do. But CTR1 threw a fucking fit. She threw a fit. And then she wrote on this whiteboard, there was a whiteboard. And she's like, I'm sorry that the birthing cleaners, like, and then she put our names, forgot to pick up this, blah, 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 blah. You know, and she threw us under the bus completely. You know, granted, yes, we forgot something. Oh my God, forgot. And so come the next week, birthing cleaners didn't go get toilet paper. They didn't go fucking take down the cleaning. Nothing. And so I see her. I'm putting on my makeup, and it was Sunday because it was holiday routine. And I'm putting on my mascara because I am semi bougie. Let's just say semi bougie.
I'm aware.
And even on deployment, I would always wear makeup, and I was we had hair down shit, so I wouldn't do my hair. I would just wake up with the lion's mane and go watch. But I would always do my makeup. I always wear lotion. I always wear always have my nails painted. I was just that girl. And my thing is like, because we had a DC senior chief asked me once. She asked Seppo why, because Seppo always wore lipstick all the time. She always wore lipstick, and she asked us why we always wear makeup. And I didn't know what to say, and Seppo didn't say anything. And I told senior chief, I was like, well, senior chief, I have standards. And if I let myself go on deployment, what do you think I'm going to do back home? I like to keep my standards up. So that's why I wear my makeup here. And Seppo's like, yeah, we have standards. And so that's just how I was. I always wear hair, or I always wear makeup. You know, I would always braid my hair. Like I was just that girl. Like I was the girl on the ship where if they always said that, like, if Sandy doesn't have it, it's not here, because I had everything. And so there I am putting makeup on, you know, in a mirror. And CTR1 passes. And I was like, hey, CTR1. I was like, so the birthing cleaners didn't do this or that. I was like, she's like, yeah, I know. I was like, all right, so are you going to throw them out onto the bus and put it on the whiteboard too? Or are you not? And she's like, I'll handle it myself. And I was like, okay. So I put something on the whiteboard. I did. And all of a sudden I go and tell Chief this. And she's like, man, I wish I would have done it. I just like, he's like, why you always gotta, he's like, you always have to be starting something. I was like, I'm not. She called us out. And if she's not going to do the same thing to somebody else, why? If you're going to do something to one group of people, you got to do it to everyone. You can't just be a fucking asshole to a group of people, because obviously that means you're picking on them. Isn't that discrimination? Yes. And so, but Chief knew what was going on, obviously, because I'm a smart ass. And and one day I'm in the office, I'm on the computer, and Chief is behind me, and I get this email, and it is CC'd to my CTT1, two CTT1s, and my DC1 as well. And it's calling for us to have a meeting in the EW shop at a certain time. And I told Chief, I was like, hey, Chief, did you get this email? And he's like, no. I was like, well, I'm not going to it unless you go to it. And he's like, why? I was like, because I feel like it's a gang up. I feel like this is because of what happened the other night. Because so after I wrote it on the whiteboard, she threw away the whiteboard. She was so pissed off. She threw away the whiteboard. I threw it away because it was a little one, and she threw it away. And Chief told me I shouldn't have done that, but I did it anyways. And I did it just like despise her, you know, because she's an asshole, and she's a fucking bitch, so she deserved it. So we go to this meeting, and it is exactly what I said it was. So Chief is like, so she was surprised Chief was there. She did not understand why Chief was there. And she asked why he's there. And I was like, well, because I asked him to be here. I was like, if you're having a meeting with everybody, I was like, I should be able to have somebody here on my behalf. And I felt uncomfortable being in the room with you guys. Not that like all my CTT ones, you know, I was uncomfortable with, but like, I was like, I just wanted, you know, them there. And so, so she has me there to sign a counseling chip. Let me tell you about this counseling chip. So Chief is like, all right, so what happened? And I was like, well, Chief, I was like, you already know my side of the story because I told you the day it happened. And she looks surprised. She's like, what? Like, because she didn't know that any interaction, anything, she breathed my way, looked my way. I was telling Chief everything. I was not going to get fucked over again. No way. I fucking kept your secret about your fucking pills that you were supposed to take. And then you fucking shitty, like, oh no. So she goes on to tell her side of the story. She's like, so Sandoval came up to me and she threatened me and she was yelling at me and she scared me. And I was like, how did I yell at you? It was holiday routine. Everybody was sleeping in the racks. So if, you know, obviously people don't know this, holiday routine is on the ship. Like, it's every other Sunday, I believe. And on holiday routine, they don't do like the 1MC wake up call. They don't do the music in the morning. They let people sleep to a certain point, and it's just your sleep-in day. You know, kind of like you know, the holiday shower, the Hollywood showers that we got in boot camp. Yeah, it was something like that, but for the ship. And so it was quiet. You get to sleep in. You know, you get brunch, and so everybody's in the rack. And I was like, if I was yelling at you, I was like, why didn't anybody hear? And so she's like, she came at me with her mascara and I thought she was going to stab me. She cornered me. And I was just so scared. I thought I was in fear for my life. And I was just looking at her. I was like, you fucking bitch. You bitch. Are you fucking kidding me? I was like, how was I going to stab you with, I didn't say she was a bitch. I didn't say any of that, but like in my head I was. I was like, how was I going to stab you with my mascara? She just cornered me. And I was just really, you know, just kept on going on. And so finally she's like, okay, all right, Sandy, are you going to tell your side? She's like, just tell your side of the story. And so I tell him my side of the story, everything that I had said to him. And then Chief's like, looks at her and he's like, does that sound right? She's like, yes. And he's like, so what's the fucking problem? She's like, I was just scared. She was coming at me and I was just scared. And he's like, all right, well, Sandy, are you going to sign the counseling shit? Because at the time, I didn't know that you're supposed to sign all counseling shits. And I was like, no. I was like, I'm not signing that. I'm not signing that. I was like, obviously, she just admitted that she's lying. She just admitted it. And she's like, I know, whatever. And so he's like, okay, well, I'm going to go put this in your DOR. And she's like, can I get a copy? I want a copy for my own records. And he's like, all right, well, I'll go make copies and I'll give you one for your record. And so I was like, real quick, I was like, CTR1, why did DC1 have to be here? She's like, I called everybody else here because I just wanted them to see the kind of person that you are. I was just like, okay. Well, little did she know, she just fucking let everybody know she's fucking batshit crazy. Everyone in there, everyone. DC1, I still talk to him every once in a while on my Instagram. But after that, he's like, I am so sorry. I did not know she was like that. She was fucking crazy. Psycho. Oh my God. So after a while, like so what ended up happening to her, which really, 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 really pissed me off was I ended up finding out that she stopped coming to watch. And then when she found out that she wasn't coming to watch, she called to figure out why she wasn't coming to watch. She's like, I don't feel good. I'm not coming to watch. She's like, well, you're the senior watch person, you know, you can't just let the second classes and third classes here. Like you're the one that's in charge, you're the LPO. She's like, I'm not coming to watch. And he's like, no, you will get up here now. So he made her come up there, and like not even a week later, she claimed that she was suicidal and got taken off the ship. Yeah, there's another story that comes up about her in the future. So, so she gets taken off the ship. My appeal comes back denied, and the CO actually stopped me in the hallway because he's like, I really want to thank you for. Because you know you're going to get kicked out of the Navy, and he's like, but you're still doing everything that you need to do, and I really appreciate that. And so I ended up finding out more about him. But he's like, you know, your appeal came back denied. He's like, if your restriction goes past our homecoming, I will not keep you on restriction. Because every time I was up for Charlie Liberty, CTR1, when she found out, because Chief is like, he's like, oh, they're coming up, you know, like he came and personally told me that they were reviewing my thing. She found out and she went straight up to CMC and made sure that I stayed on Charlie Liberty. CMC wasn't even supposed to be intervening in that. And he intervened and he kept me on Charlie Liberty. I will tell you that I spent, like, if anybody wants to talk about how shitty the fucking deployment was and how shitty the Navy is, I spent 7 months straight, 7 months not leaving the ship, not touching land. And when they did that, if people would ask me to go take out the trash, I'm like, I can't cross the bow. Damn it, can't take out the trash. So I wouldn't help them with anything. Nothing at all. So when I got put back on restriction, that's when CMC started harassing me more. So the first time was we were in the boat valley, and do you know what a RAS is? A replenishment at sea. A replenishment at sea is when so here's my boat. Well, here's my ship, not a boat, because boats are subs. I don't know if you know that. A sub is actually a boat. Yeah. I was stationed with submariners, and they don't like being called submariners either. But so,
oh my God.
So here's the boat, or I'm on a podcast, so nobody's gonna know. So,
is it where the boat just comes up next to the other boat? Like I've seen pictures.
Yeah. So it comes back up to the other boat. And then what they do is they throw a bunch of lines across and they connect, but they have to be going the same speed and everything. And it's actually very, very dangerous. Like, when I got on the ship, they told me of a story of a guy who committed suicide by jumping up in between. He jumped off because he knew that he was going to be pulled by the current, and they never found his body. Yeah, that's a fucking crazy way to die. But I mean, when you're committing suicide, you want to make sure you follow through. So he definitely followed through. There's no saving him. But so what happens so you can do a replenishment like from top, which means a helicopter, because on amphib we have helos, and they can do it that way, which fucking sucks. Like I lost my birthday presents from that because they accidentally dropped a thing in the water. Well, I mean, I guess you can do it from the side too, because they send it on a line. They send they send these huge ass things, pallets on the line. And then you bring it into the boat valley. And where my spot was we would break it down and we just throw all the boxes. Keep going. And it's a very like strenuous job. So usually they have all the buff people. I'm not buff, but I guess like, some people would say I'm buff. And so that's where my job was. But also like, I like being there too, because and everybody else liked me there because I would like talk Suppo into like letting us open some things and like pass around Gatorades and stuff, or Red Bulls. Yeah. And, because the chiefs mess and the officers, they get cool shit that we don't get because they pay for it. They don't come, their food comes from a different, like not BAS. So whenever they eat, they like sign on a paper. And so they only get charged for their meals, which is bullshit because our fucking food is shitty and they just take it out of our pay. Like we were eating fucking like birds and because they were running out of food and we still had to pay the full fucking thing. And I was only getting like, I was a bird. I'm not a bird. I was a growing girl, but so besides that, so I'm in the boat valley and I'm breaking apart the pallets and CMC comes and he's like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm working out pallets. What do you think I'm doing? And he's like, why are you here? I was like, because this is my station. He's like, no, go get in the P-way. I was just like, so I like went a little bit, but I didn't really go. I just went around a boat so he couldn't see me. And so then LSC and LS1, which do they guys still have LSs in the command? I don't know if there's.
Yeah, LSs are still a thing.
Or they changed the SHs, right?
Yeah, SH changed to something else.
All right. So an LSC, he comes and talks to me, and he tells me I'm fine. And so when CMC tells me to go, DCCS, that one, the female one, she asked him, why do you want her to go? She's like, what's she doing wrong here? Because usually it's like the boat valley is a lot of khaki because, we gotta let everybody see that the khakis do stuff, one team, one fight, do as I say, not as I do. So the khakis were full the boat valley, and also we would have the lowest ranking ensign would dress up in a alligator outfit costume. Yeah, there's a lot of weird. Like our command has a meme from one of the meetings because there's somebody dressed up as an alligator. So then, because you have the bull who is the most senior JO, and then I can't remember what the other one's called. But so he ends up telling her that the reason why he wanted me to go over there was because I was only there for attention. I was there to flirt with the Marines, and that's all I did. And she's like, but she was working. Okay, whatever. And so afterwards, LSC and LS1 ended up pulling me to the side, and they told me that I should put in a report against Master Chief because they got scolded because they wouldn't make me move to the P-way because he's like, why is she here? And they're like, well, because she's one of our best workers and she's here every rise. He didn't want people seeing that I was still working. That's the whole point. He hated that I still did my job, that I still worked, that I did everything, because in his mind, I was a huge fucking disgrace to the Navy, which you'll eventually hear why. like what he said. So there was that incident. Second incident was, so I was dating that Marine. And I would sometimes go down to his spaces, but when I was on restriction, I was in my rack. 2000 at my rack. That's where I was supposed to be. And that's where I was. So one day, my boyfriend tells me in the morning that CMC came down to his space with a bunch of khaki and searched their space. And when they asked why, he's like, I'm looking for one of my sailors. I believe she's hiding down here. He kept on, like, this is a force master chief now. He is the force master chief. I don't fucking care if he comes after me. Come after me. He is the force master chief. He is a fucking shitty person. And you will hear more of why he's a shitty person in just a sec. So we come back from deployment, and I obviously am not on restriction anymore, but I go and sign my admin separation. I denied treatment. So I went up for a SARP, because you have to get a SARP interview. And I went up, and they were going to recommend me for level 1. So there's level 1, there's level 2, there's level 3, which is inpatient. And then there's level like 0.5. And that's just like
SARP,
a day or
for
whatever.
people that don't know, is what the substance abuse something program.
Yes,
yeah.
something program.
I had to do it too, but I don't remember what it stands for.
So I go there, and they were going to give me level 1, but then the lady is like, oh, wait. She's like, you're about to get kicked out for treatment failure, right? I was like, yes. She's like, well, then I'm going to suggest level 3. I'm like, why? And she's like, well, because it's going to buy you extra time in the Navy. I was like, no, it's not. I was like, you are going to be locking me up for 30. I've already done this before. You're going to be locking me up for 30 days. And I'm going to only have like an hour of computer time. How am I going to transition out of the Navy when I'm locked up? How? She's like, well, this is just, it's going to be for your own good. I was like, it's not going to be for my own good. I was like, you're locking me up. How am I going to do anything? How am I going to try to look for a job? How am I going to do anything? No, like, I was like, how can you go and say that you're going to give me level 1, and then all of a sudden you realize that I'm being kicked out of the Navy, and then switch it to level 3? You can't do that. Like, you're supposed to be evaluating me per what I need. That's why I hate fucking SARP. So I denied treatment. I was like, I'm not doing it. I deny it. Fuck you guys. And so then in December, I signed my admin separation paperwork. And they're like, well, if you want to appeal it, make you had to make a whole package, and it had to be done within a specific amount of time. And the package was like a personalized letter, a package of everything from like all your records, like any of the MA records, because you can go get copies of all that. Obviously, it's your record. So anything from the NJP. So if anybody doesn't know, you can go get everything, copies of everything, any of the investigation, everything. And that's what I did. I put anything and everything over there. And you also have to have letters from like that's to speak on your behalf. What's that called? Letters from, like, I got a letter from my chief. I got a letter from my old OIC, or my old what is it? I don't know. Like, my old IWO. So I got my old EXO. I went and got all these letters, and the only person I couldn't get a letter from was my ops. And I was really mad because ops is the best ops I've ever had. Super gun ho, very fun, like Southern, and like, I would say his name, but he was one of the best officers I've ever had. And well, I mean, I've had a few, but he was the best. And he really stuck his head out for me, but he also like really taught me persistence in the Navy. Definitely taught me, because they didn't want to send me to VBSS. And he is the one that fought for me to go. He's like, why won't you send her? he's like, she has all the qualifications. She has all the prerequisites. She's the first and only female to pass the Jacob's ladder, because back then you had to pass a ladder, like a free hanging ladder with 50 pounds on you, and you had to climb it, and then you had to pull yourself over, and you only had 2 tries, and you had to do it in a certain amount of time, or else you just didn't go. Yeah. And so I was the first one to pass it. Like, not even my arch nemesis passed. So he fought for me to go. And so finally they sent me, and which reminds me of another trauma. Look at this. So they sent me, and after they sent me, I went and thanked him in the smoke deck, and he's like, sometimes he's like, you just have to keep on pushing and pushing and pushing until you can get what you want. He's like, it's just persistence, you know? And so he really taught me about that. So which really ended up helping in the end, because obviously I put in an appeal and appealed my fucking admin separation. And so first I went to a JAG. And so in case nobody knows, never go to the JAG at your command. That JAG is not there for you. That JAG is there for your CEO. He is not there for you. So if he gives you advice, it's going to be advice per what's good for the CEO. That's one thing I was never told, but I eventually was told, obviously, because I'm saying it now, but I wish I would have known that sooner, because they're not there for you at all. They're not there to help you. So if you need a JAG, always go to a JAG for the base, or reach out to a different JAG, which is what I did. I reached out to the JAG of the base. It was a fucking shit show. And he's like, didn't even freaking read my record. He's like, yeah, I don't think there's anything we can do. I read over it. It looks, I think you should just take what they give you. I was like, all right, well, thank you for your help. I'm going to go find somebody else. And that's what I did. I actually had my first class help me, and he helped me write it up. And because at the time I was writing at like 3rd grade level, and it was very bad. I've gotten a lot better. And yeah, I sounded completely retarded. Not that there's anything wrong with being retarded. I sounded illiterate better. I sounded very uneducated. And so I put that up, and then I waited and I waited and I waited. And so while I waited, I obviously continued doing my work, and everything was, I mean, I didn't tell my dad. First off, I didn't tell my dad that I was going to get kicked out. I like went to Mexico, and I talked to my cousin. I'm like, hey, Rigo. I was like, so I'm going to get kicked out of the Navy. Should I tell dad, or should I wait? Because I'm waiting for this appeal. And my cousin's like, that would really worry your dad. He's like, I think I would wait to find out what to say. And so, because I'm my dad's oldest. He calls me the baby. I'm not his baby. Well, okay. So he says I'm a baby, but I'm not the baby. He says I'm his baby. It's just, I stopped arguing with that, but he would probably worry about it. What's that? It was fuzz. So I waited, and then April, it's a funny thing. So in April, comes, I get a thing from my chief, and my chief's like, hey, you need to go. Okay. So first off, when I came back from deployment, I had gained so much muscle that like, I didn't know that I gained. I had DITS. Do you know what DITS is? So DITS is division in the spotlight. It's 2 weeks, and they just go over like all your divisional paperwork and your maintenance stuff, all your programs, just to make sure everything's in order. But then also during it, you have a uniform inspection with the CMC. And so we were doing a peanut butter inspection, and I put my peanut butters on, and I had to drive like this. I couldn't move my arms, and like it was just like I've never been like that. Well, obviously now I'm fluffy, and so it's a bit different. But I was lean back then, and my first class, my CTM1 used to call me beefcakes after that. That's what he calls me. It's just beef. Still he'll like message, like say stuff on Facebook and call me beefcakes. But so when the admiral came back with her thing, well, so first off, we didn't know it was her. So my chief's like, leave right now, go buy a new uniform, get it tailored right now. You're meeting with the admiral tomorrow. I'm like, what? And he's like, yes, go. And he's like, come tomorrow. I'm going to inspect you. Make sure your makeup is on point. Like, make sure you look good, And so I come in the next day, my shoes signed. So my shoes, I have never, ever got anything but an outstanding my uniform inspection. My shoes look like chloroforms. Or is it chloroforms? Yeah, chloroforms.
I don't know. I don't know what it's called. Like, I've heard people call it chloroform, and I'm like, I don't think that's it. I think that's like the thing that you use to like, yeah,
to knock people out. Chloroforms, and so I come in the next day, and makeup's done perfectly, hair's done perfectly, and my chief's like looking me over, and he's like, so the admiral's a female. You're fucked. Because he told me to make sure my makeup is. He's like hoping like my lips.
So he thought you were gonna play the cute female card, basically.
yeah. And so then I start hearing about her, and they're like, "Who is she? Who is she?" And they're like, "Oh, Admiral Tebow." Oh, like all the JOs are like, "Oh, I heard she's a bitch." Blah 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 blah. All this. They're like, not that she might be easy on you. They're saying all this shit. I'm like getting nervous. And they're like, they're realizing that they're not doing me any justice, and they're making me more nervous. And so I go in, and she's there, and so I go in, and you have to badge into the building, and why I am waiting, guess who walks in? My ops works directly under her. And I was like, sir, what are you doing here? He's like, oh, I work here. And I was like, he's like, what are you doing here? I was like, I'm meeting with the admiral about my appeal. He's like, I have a feeling you're going to be okay. He's like, I have this feeling. I was like, okay. And so I walk in, and the admiral is there with her CMC, and gives me this long spiel about how there is I think 4-star admiral who started out as an enlisted E1, got in trouble a few times, was masked a few times, and still made admiral. And she's like, I really think that you're going to have a career like that. Joke's on her. Look at me now. but so she says this, and she's like, I'm going to give you the choice, because this was a Wednesday. And she's like, I'm going to give you the choice. She's like, I'm going to give you the choice of, you can stay in, and I'll put in paperwork to have a rescreening for SARP, and we'll get you a waiver to stay in the Navy, or you can get out. But I cannot promise you an honorable discharge. And I was just like jaw dropped. And she's like, just wait. You can give me your decision by Friday. I was just like, I didn't know what the fuck happened. So who's the first person I call? My mentor, FC1. I didn't even call my dad. I was like, call my mentor. and I was like, this is what the admiral says, blah, 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 blah. He's like, you better fucking stay in. He's like, you better fucking stay in. He's like, holy fucking hell, you are lucky. 3 fucking ARIs. And he's like, and you're getting the chance to stay in. He's like, that is a once in a lifetime chance. He's like, stay in. You better fucking, he's like, if you don't stay in, I'm gonna fucking kill you. Like, so he's like, stay in. And so then I call my dad, and my dad's like, I tell him, I was like, hey dad, like this happened a year ago. I've been waiting, like dreading, like stressing, depressed. And he's like, just do do what you need to in order to keep your like GI Bill, your benefits. And so I don't think I explained on this. Obviously, you guys don't know my dad. He's the Mexican Jackie Chan, and he is an immigrant, and he's not a citizen. He's still a resident because he's dumb and won't go get his fucking citizenship. And so he's still got a green card, but he is a business owner, and he's really inspired me because he's lived the American dream, came from nothing, and then built his way up with 7 kids. So when my dad says stuff like that, like, make sure because he wanted me to go to college. He didn't want me in the Navy. And that is the American dream, to get all the benefits that you can from the military, or, why he wanted me to go to college so they could, eventually be somebody. I mean, I am somebody, but like, it's just something that doesn't really happen in Mexico, And so, so that's what he told me. So I decided to stay in, and I went to try to get rescreened for SARP, but so even if it comes from Admiral, technically you can't be rescreened. And since it was still within the 30 days, or I think like 3 months. So there's like a time limit of this screening. And I was still in that window to where that screening would still count towards my screening. And so I did the 30 days of fucking SARP rehab all over again, which even when I was there and when I was leaving, they're like, honestly, we have no reason. We don't know why you're here. They're like, we're glad you're here because you've helped a lot of people here, but we don't know why you're here. And I was like, I know. It was a drug deal. I'm here. So not a little drug deal, but we in the Navy, we call those drug deals when like somebody, scratches your back, you scratch their back. So, and so I did my 30 days out there. And then we were in the yards, and I had 3 screws in my tires 3 times. Somebody kept putting screws and nails in my tire. And I got this all done in 1 week. I went to go get a new tire, same like the next day. Yeah, it kept happening. It was like within a week. And so I put in a TAD request to go work at Marmac to get an extra maintenance certification, so I could learn how to solder and stuff like that. And so that's what I was gonna do. And so so I also had to pick orders as well. And thankfully at the time, the EW symposium was coming up, the electronic warfare symposium. It's just a nerd meeting, with all these CTTs and a bunch of nerds in one huge group, But at the time, the detailer was there. And one good thing too was they reset my Seaway. So thankfully I went back to 0 picks, thankfully, which meant my Seaway got accepted right off the bat. Because honestly, if I wouldn't have gotten in trouble and I would have had like gone through the whole thing, my friends that came in with me, a lot of the CTTs, they all either got cross-rated or they got out because they couldn't stay in our rate. Yeah. So a lot of people that I've talked to, if I wouldn't have gotten what I did, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. So I go and I talk to the detailer because he's like, I have an open door. He's like, if anybody needs to come talk to me, come and talk to me. He's a mass chief. And so I got to talk to mass chief. Very nervous about my chief, and a lot of the chiefs, we have a very small community. And so a lot of the chiefs that were there were from my schoolhouse way back when. And they go and they're like, you got this, just, blah, blah, explain everything and stuff. And so I go in and, he's like, all right, so what can I do for you? You know, I was like, well, you know, I'm up for orders, and, you know, there was a situation. He's like, so what happened? I was like, it's good a situation. You know, I didn't really want to say it. He's like, all right, well, what kind of situation? So I explained everything to him, and he's like, all right, well, obviously, you can't be an instructor. And he's like, you know, you're a technician, right? And I was like, yeah, I am. And he's like, you know that all the master chiefs in our community are all technicians. And I was like, I didn't know that. And he's like, yeah, we're all technicians. So I think I'm gonna hook you up. And I was like, okay. He's like, I'm thinking I'm gonna send you to 9141 and either Hawaii or DC. And I was like, Hawaii. And he sent me to DC. So I go, and so at the time I only knew that I was going to 9141, which I had no fucking clue what that was. And I go and tell my chief, and they're like, oh, because they're like, you're always gonna be seashore. You're always gonna be going back to a ship and all this other shit. And they're just like fucking talking shit, and just makes me really mad because I thought that I just fucked myself over. And so I got orders to DC, ONIDC, and which is it's the Office of Naval Intelligence, DC. And so when I put in my TAD, request, and also when I talked to because I didn't end up talking to Admiral to give her my decision. I just talked to the CMC of February 6. And when I talked to him, he's like, okay, he's like, well, your CMC at your command is going to be your liaison between February 6 and you. And I was like, okay. So he's like, if you have any questions about anything, reach out to your master chief. I'm like, great, awesome. And so I was waiting, and still wasn't hearing anything back. And so I have my TAD request, and we were trying to reach Master Chief to ask him like what was going on, because in order for me to get my orders, I needed to re-enlist, and I can't re-enlist until I get a waiver to, you know, take away that admin separation that I had. So we're waiting, and Chief can't get a hold of him. Master Chief can't get a hold of him. Ops can't get a hold of him. Nobody can get a hold of him. So I go to a women's symposium, because back then, I've never heard of a women's symposium recently, but back then, in 2015, there was a women's symposium, which was very if you want to talk about having something that boosts morale for females and empowerment, I cried. There was a story that an admiral told, and everybody was crying. It was so good. It was super, it was really, really good. And I wish they had more, you know. I feel like it would be a lot better if we did. But so while I was there, I bumped into February 6 CMC. And I was like, hey, Master Chief. I was like, I've been trying to get a hold of my Master Chief. I was like, well, I've been going through my chain of command trying to get a hold of my Master Chief. We've been sending emails. We've been asking questions because we're still waiting for the waiver to come in. And we don't know what's going on. And so we go, he's like, okay. He's like, you know, I'll see what I can do. And I go into work the next day, and I get called into the ops office because we were on the barge because our ship was in the shipyard. So it's you can't live there. And so the barge is just basically like a floating berthing. It's disgusting. I mean, except for they had a deep fryer. So we got all this great ass food. Really good food. Calzones. Our CS1 cooked us calzones. I'm one thing, if you ever go to a ship, make friends with the CSs and supply. I made my own birthday cake for my 21st birthday.
That's what everyone says. Everyone says to
Yes.
do that, but I mean, I've never been on a boat, so I can't speak
Yeah.
for that. So.
Well, I would like, there's just so much, but so I get called in the office, and when I go into the office, I don't know what to expect. And who's in there is QMC and QMC and OS CM. Yeah. And so Master Chief, OS Master Chief. And so I'm really, really confused on what's going on. And so we go in, and so the first thing he asked me is if I'm scared of him. And yeah. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, physically and mentally. I was like, yeah. And he's like, well, you shouldn't be. And I was just like, okay. And so all right, so I typed it out. So he asked physically and verbally, and I was like, yes. And he's like, I shouldn't be. And then he proceeded to tell me that his boss told him that I was looking for him, and that I had embarrassed him by going and talking to his boss. He's like, I never received a phone call and on his cell phone. I was like, I don't have your cell phone number. And I was like, and I was going through my chain of command. He's like, well, if you went down to admin, he's like, you could have just asked. And I was just like, okay. And then he's like, I think you think you're special. He's like, do you think you're special? And I was like, no, I don't think I'm special. And he's like, never in my career I ever did a waiver for someone to stay in the Navy after having 3 RIs. He's like, never in my career have I seen a CO send a personal letter to DONCAC requesting a sailor keep the security clearance. He's like, I think you're fucking special. He's like, excuse me. He's like, never in my career have I seen an admiral request a rescreening for SARP. I think you're fucking special. And he's like, you know that TAD request you have in? He's like, I'm going to deny it. He's like, I think you need to stay here. He's like, I don't think you need to go TAD. He's like, I think that we need to keep an eye on you. Every night I wait to wake up and get a phone call saying you got drunk and killed yourself. And after that, I couldn't listen. I blanked out everything he said after that, because he doesn't know this, but my aunt, she got drunk at a bar. They found her, they found her breast implants, because what happened was she drove into a grave and backed over a tombstone, and her car exploded and she died in there. She burned alive. He doesn't know that, but that doesn't mean you should say that to somebody. And I don't know what he said. I don't know what else he said. And afterwards, I was just like, okay, yeah, thank you, Master Chief. And I went up to my berthing and I cried. And then I came downstairs back to the ops office, and I asked QMC if we can go smoke. And of course, QMC's like, yeah, let's go smoke. And then he's like, he won't touch you. He's like, he will not touch you. He's like, we'll make sure that he doesn't touch you.
Hey, just to close us off here, I wanted to thank you guys so much for tuning in for part 2 of this 5-part series. And you'll want to make sure to tune in next week for part 3. See you guys next week.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen in today. Each week, I'll be bringing you value in the mental health space and its direct impact on service members and veterans. If you feel you personally got value today from this episode, it would mean the world to me if you would leave a 5-star rating and review and share this to your audience. Until next time, remember, your story matters, your mental health matters, and your story doesn't end here.